PowerOfEvil or Kenvi could end up playing, and it's not something we've seen on blue side as first pick today. Lucian is a really interesting one for me. I had a conversation with Freak in the caster room beforehand, because even though it's one of the highest presence champions on this patch, it had a very low win rate, but part of that was because it's always picked first on blue side when it's available. So coming over to red side for Team Liquid, I do like being able to lock the Lucian Nami just like that.
Still being able to lock it in with probably the most prominent support we've seen with him as of late, just always willing to be complemented by those enchanters. For Immortals, their response is bringing in the Renara Glasc in that support position here to accompany Kalista.
I think that's going to be a very explosive bottom lane. Kalista is something that has been banned the majority of the day, so a lot of fireworks and two lane-dominant AD carries and Lucian and Kalista going up against each other.
And the things that we have seen in any other time this combination has come through other regions, as well as some of the Academy games coming into this week, having Renara Glasc able to be thrown in there and follow up is an interesting combination at that. Wukong also extremely high presence across all leagues. A flex pick at that, but we see him in that jungle position time and time again.
And I think Santorin will be a really good pilot of this pick. He's always able to find creative gank paths on anything he plays, so having a champion like Wukong that can sneak over walls to surprise the opponent, I think is right in his wheelhouse.
See where he decides to facilitate as we go through the remainder of these bans. Fiora already making an appearance on the day, and Gangplank so high in that presence as well, just because of how you can affect the later parts of the map, or the alternative parts of the map rather, and scaling into that effective threat from the top lane. Yeah,
and based on the fact that TL is targeting a top lane ban with both mid and top lane likely being the two roles that haven't been picked, it makes me think that they want to pick their top laner on 4 here, and they're trying to ban out counters. So and also Ahri would be a ban because they don't want Immortals to have a good blind pick option in mid. So with the comp so far, I think we're going to see a tank pick for Bwipo on 4 here, maybe Ornn.
And Bwipo, one of the things that he has offered to this team is how flexible he can be. So when you're looking at the changes in the meta and what's coming through, you want him to be that pillar of strength for Team Liquid's side. Whereas Immortals, they love to play around Revenge and trying to reserve a great pick for him to play towards.
Revenge often wants to go for counter pick, and Immortals ended up playing around him a lot last split, but didn't necessarily find that much success. Interestingly enough, even though like the bans are pointing me to picking Bwipo's pick on 4 here, it's not what Team Liquid did that often in spring, because almost always they would wait until the 5th pick so Bwipo could just pick whatever he wanted. And I think Bwipo had a really unfortunate arc last split, because he started off lock-in tournament in spring, to me looking like a potential MVP of the league, but by the end of it, I think almost single-handedly lost them several games. So he's going to be extremely hungry to prove himself. And I think if Team Liquid would have blind picked him something like Ornn, that would have been a lack of confidence and maybe a change in style for Team Liquid coming into summer here. But with the TF being blinded and waiting for Bwipo to be able to pick on 5, I do think it is allowing Bwipo the space to redeem himself, as well as preventing Revenge from being able to get counterpicked.
And on that TF, we saw a little bit in LEC this morning, now here in the LCS. So many of the mid laners, even in the interviews thus far today, talked about how prominent control mages are and getting to scale through. I wonder who likes picks like that.
I wonder. PowerOfEvil, the master of the 3rd dragon fight, or the 4th dragon fight, when he has 300 CS and 3 items. But the Gnar pick, even though there was the singed hover that many people would have liked, is almost never going to happen, because with Viktor, taliyah, you already have 2 magic damage dealers, which almost necessitates you do physical damage in the top lane. And we get to see Olaf, which could be jungle, or could just be Bwipo playing in the top lane. I wonder if they're actually going to flex Wukong top into the Gnar. I don't know if TL's done with this funny business yet.
And when talking about the fact that Bwipo started so strong in the spring, as you were mentioning, a lot of that came from that flexibility, really increasing that champion pool, and that is something that Team Liquid has in the arsenal. We can always threaten that flex over. Don't see any movement right now, though, so it seems that it's the Wukong in that jungle position. Yeah,
Olaf will be in the top lane. He's actually much more prioritized in the top lane just in summer split across regions. So Will be interesting to see how Bwipo pilots that, and if the worst. It's hard to say where the meta is actually going to be going, but I'm looking for Team Liquid really trying to dominate the bottom lane with the Twisted Fate pick and the Lucian Nami, trying to stack early dragons and then win through a soul.
Both teams taken to the Rift right now in game number 4. And with that being said, on the Team Liquid side, it's very known a lot of the ways they've liked to play in the past in terms of that comfort. And we're looking at this meta, we're scaling, going for that later game, having that stability early can be such a benefit. So we'll have to see how they decide to take against Immortals in this game at the start.
Absolutely, and I think the durability conversation is going to be a continuous conversation, shall we say, throughout kind of global League of Legends. So we'll continue that later this game.
As far as finding out Immortal strategy going into this game against Team Liquid, we got Pastry Time standing on by with Coach Nightshare.
Thank you very much. I am standing by with the coach of IMT. First things first, it's an obvious one. How are you feeling about the draft, especially getting taliyah so early on?
So we basically practiced a lot of bot lane matchups in this meta, and we think that Kalista Renata is winning against Lucian Nami. So we prepared that, and we were like willing to first pick taliyah because of the E, how the E works, and both Kalista and Lucian sort of needs to use the dashes in teamfights. So we want to like stop that a bit with the taliyah, and then we're just like sort of trading. If they would take the Kalista Renata, we would just like handshake the Lucian Nami.
Yeah, makes sense. And then, of course, the question kind of everyone's going to be thinking about. Lots of changes from Immortals in the offseason. The big one, obviously, being Kenvi. What should we expect as fans from the Immortals side from Kenvi?
I mean, Ken is really insane. His hands are insane, and his mechanics are insane. And he's very young, talented, and hungry. So he will be eager to show how he is actually better than the rest of the competition.
All right, excited to see him. Smurf, thank you for joining me. Go ahead and watch that game. We'll throw it on back to LeTigress.
Kenvi will be trying to make his mark in this game, but bringing some of that attention down here to the bot lane. We heard some on the ADC matchup, but we get Ignar back too. And what a way to bring him back on a champion that wasn't around the last time he was in professional play.
Yeah, there's actually so much to talk about going off of that interview and thinking about all the storylines with these two teams. Let's dive into that bottom lane though, because I love it that we were able to get that interview from Pastry Time and actually hear what each team thinks of the matchup. So they're saying Kalista Renata, they think they can win against Lucian Nami. And I think that is, I mean, it is true based off their scrims, but the question will be, does that translate to stage, and does that translate to playing against Han Sama and CoreJJ? But I actually do really think, personally, bot prio and AD carry supremacy is one of the ways to win on this patch. So as you see Santorin having that in mind, goes bot right away.
Now, already present here, Kenvi's in the area as well. The flash is forward to get first blood for Team Liquid.
Love that, and look at what Santorin did. He skipped Krugs and Wolves so that he could be there faster. So even though Kenvi had a camp advantage, he wasn't there in time to support that play. 5 summoner spells burned by Team Liquid to get that first blood, but it goes on to Santorin, and that more than makes up for the fact that he skipped a camp.
The full commitment to the gank from Team Liquid's side, very clean, willing to expel those summoners to secure.
Yeah, let's watch this one more time. As we mentioned in Champ Select, Santorin, so sneaky, finding ways over the wall. So Immortals is pushed up because they have a ward in that river bush. They see Santorin, but it's too late since he came through the back of the pit. Lost burns his flash early, so Santorin knows he can guaranteed reach him with Flash E, and he gets the kill.
Couple of buffs in tow, returning to the jungle for him. So early lead for Team Liquid on this bot lane is definitely a strength that they can pull from. The scuttle was also something that he was able to take along the way, so securing some of that vision extended across the riverside with 40 seconds to go on that first Drake spawning. Though a lot of fights for the first Drake have been a lot more prolonged within these patches.
Absolutely, and the first Drake being Cloud actually has a chance to decelerate the game further. That dragon does more damage than all the others, so it is very difficult to solo, especially with Santorin only being just now level 4. So I actually don't think Santorin can safely kill that. So if Team Liquid is to get the dragon, I think it would be when Bjergsen hits 6, Lost has no summoner spells, and they're trying to push their advantage. So Bjergsen would gank bot, they'd kill Lost, and that's how they would get dragon.
And all the while, with those advantages that Team Liquid have been setting up over on that bot side, Revenge now getting his first back, having pushed the waves forward in that top lane matchup, having that range at his availability for that. So Immortals still having somewhere on this map that they can play towards, Scuttle secured for them on that side as well.
Yeah, I even though I think the Ninja Tabai make it really good for Revenge to try and play aggressive and make it really difficult to get killed by a Wukong gank, I don't necessarily know if that's going to do much to break open this game. I think Team Liquid is holding this wave in a really tricky spot for Immortals to deal with, because normally they could just ward the river and continue to push their advantage, but the fact that Lost has no summoner spells and Bjergsen is 6 with the wave pushed in means they're trapped. That's why Kenvi's actually just stuck here, because they need to guard against a Twisted Fate or Wukong gank.
And that Twisted Fate, Bjergsen backing right now because Destiny is available. That ever-pressing threat from them. Blast Cone over the wall for Santorin to get through. A double stun on 2. Lost is marked low once again. The worked round right below. Should be another hit. The bailout is here only temporarily. Hansama picks up the kill.
And didn't we just talk about this? How is Team Liquid going to get Dragon? Lost is going to be pushed up. Twisted Fate is going to gank bottom. And then they could go for Drake. What Team Liquid doesn't want to do, though, is take the Dragon. So it was really close. It was really close to being there. Santorin and Bjergsen are running back to lane to get farm. But the execution here actually, I think, surprised Immortals, because what's happening here is Bjergsen has gone back to base. He actually teleports bottom lane, then ults in, which will be an instant death. It's a large investment of resources, but I think worth it in the end.
We've seen such important Aqua Prisons from a lot of Namis out there, and as soon as you're locked down that early, when everyone's feeling pretty squishy, it's a good place to be on the Nami side.
One thing that we haven't talked about in this game, and I actually tend to bring this up a lot of times in PowerOfEvil matchups, is, just gonna watch this for a second.
Right over the wall, PowerOfEvil throwing down the Chaos Storm. It's in pursuit. CoreJJ's already made his rotation, but so has Ignar. Ignar being equally willing to unlock himself from lane. Yeah, both supports when they recall run out mid to top Bjergsen up, and that's actually a pretty big win for TL, because now PoE has very little damage in a trade. But I don't think there's a champion in the game that PowerOfEvil, even if he'll admit it or not, dislikes more than Twisted Fate. Just throughout his competitive history, PowerOfEvil has never been able to win at a high rate with Twisted Fate, and also loses at a very high rate to Twisted Fate. Because something that he is so good at is consistently farming and being a team fight force. So when he is playing Twisted Fate, that typically doesn't work, because Twisted Fate wants to be able to push, roam, and playmate. But also, against Twisted Fate, since PoE isn't a player who punishes the opponent hard in lane, it ends up also giving Twisted Fate too much freedom. So, as we saw already with the first gank by Bjergsen, notice how he's not even down in CS, despite using his ultimate and his teleport for that gank bottom. So really, kind of, Twisted Fate is a bit of PoE's Achilles heel. A good read from Team Liquid, considering everyone when looking at this Immortal squad, as Team Liquid is currently on the Rift Herald. We'll have to see if Revenge actually wants to do anything about this. Bwipo's made his rotation through as well. And the majority of IMT, except for Lost, are here. Boomerang onto Bwipo, got some more work around, flashes forward, stun onto Kenvi, and he goes down. Ignar from the opposite side, but they can't answer back. They lose their jungler here.
That kind of goes from bad to worse. So I think Immortals was stuck between decisions there, because they had a temporary numbers advantage since Ignar was ahead of CoreJJ on the move up, but Hansama was also moving and Lost was in lane. So it was going to be short-lived, and that gave Team Liquid a lot of confidence to be able to go in for the fight. Getting the Rift Herald while also getting Kenvi's flash and killing them kind of gives them their cake and the ability to eat it. So 2,000 gold lead with Rift Herald, Team Liquid in absolute control of this one.
A bounty here for Santorin off of that action. We'll see Revenge hop away right now as they return to the 1v1 here in the top lane. But back to part of that note on TF, where that's a great read from Team Liquid going into the squad from Immortals, because a lot of people were thinking, okay, Ignar reunited with PoE, we can expect him to play up towards that direction, wanting to lock themselves in lane that much more. So if that's what you're expecting from their side, you prepare accordingly. And these two teams are not very familiar with the state of the game for either squad right now, because they do not scrim against each other. So it's their first meeting here. Unknown strats for both squads.
Yeah, there is possibly some bad blood between Gilyoto, who is the former head coach of Immortals, but that is true that they do not scrim each other, so definitely a fresh matchup. That doesn't mean they're not familiar with each other, though. Especially thinking back to the 2020 FlyQuest roster where Santorin, PowerOfEvil, and Ignar nearly won the split both in spring and in summer, but fell just short, and then had a 3-3 run at Worlds. But as you see, they've already swapped now, and they're ganking again.
Revenge is the target, goes to the wayside. Kenvi is here for some additional protection, throws up the Weaver's Wall to target 3 of them, and the tower is enough of protection.
Not quite.
Tidal Wave here.
It still gives them a lot of time on this turret. I think ideally they wanted to be able to get the kill the turrets and drop the Herald, but now PoE has made his way up, and a lot has been expended by Team Liquid in that gank. A 1v4 is a tall task, though.
Death Ray for a little bit of poke onto Hansama does have the ultimate to throw down, but Team Liquid, they read this, they want to back off. We still have 3 minutes on the clock before any of these plates come down, so chipping away all the while to try and extend a gold lead.
We also talked before the game a lot about Kenvi. I think he is a very exciting prospect. So far, this is an unfortunate debut game for him because, as we've noted, he was 17 years old when he joined the 100 Thieves organization, started an amateur, spent a year and a half in academy, and I think there's also this, when you are a very talented academy player, I think there is definitely a want to debut on a top team because you want to be able to allow your skills to shine through. In this game for Kenvi, if we think about the path, it's like, well, he did 5 camps and Santorin did 4, and then his AD carry died. And everything since that point has been a little bit of a chain reaction. So even though, like, his mechanics are incredible, he's this young talent, he can do amazing things in team fights, like, a lot of the way Team Liquid beats people, it doesn't allow them to show off their hands because they had that one mistake early, and Team Liquid has been able to punish it. But, again, like, there's some hands from Hansama flashing away from the Kalista ult to make it so Immortals can't do anything. But Team Liquid, what I'm trying to say, doesn't give you very many windows to do things.
They are a great team at punishing mistakes as a team that tries their best to make very few on their own with whatever strategy they bring through. All of that being said, everything we're hearing is that Kenvi wanted to join this Immortals squad. They have been signed all the way through 2024. So looking at the development as we see the fight come through, Culling does get some damage onto Kenvi, but the Cyclone into the back and the Wave also getting a knock up. Lost has to retreat under the turret. Once again, they do have Shelly also on the attack, wanting to target this tower. Teleport coming in for Team Liquid side to ensure that they have the numbers advantage. Root over the wall onto Bjergsen, can be throwing out the Qs as much as he possibly can. The charge effective and the disengage ensues.
I believe Kenvi's flash had basically just come back. So I think if you're trying to time things, Bjergsen was very much thinking that he was going to be able to kill Kenvi there. But yeah, it was like within a couple of seconds of the cooldown being able to use it again. So narrowly missed kill there. There's that Olaf.
Meanwhile, ult activated from Bwipo. Doesn't matter that the rage comes on through for Gnar. He goes down, whimpering.
Bwipo's back.
Bwipo back, baby!
Haven't seen him exceed with these 5th pick, counter pick solo kills, but he does one right there.
As they've been left alone for a long time.
Yeah, they haven't really been a part of the game.
Nope.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, he's now 1,300 gold up on Revenge. They have had to swap back and forth a little bit, so there's definitely factors that have influenced that lane that we haven't necessarily been privy to, but 26 CS advantage, multiple plates, and a solo kill put him healthily ahead.
Already getting pretty big. Mythic achieved for him ahead of his laner. So you can already see that power in the side lanes, making sure that wave gets shoved bot, which gives the room for Santorin to target this dragon first of the game.
Yeah. So this would be the only concern if you're Team Liquid, is that the first Dragon is going down this late at 14 minutes. So even if you're thinking perfect respawn killing, you're gonna get second Dragon at 19:30, third Dragon at 24:30, and then Soul around 30 minutes. And we haven't really seen that many games move towards conclusion without some form of Dragon stacking. So the question will really be, like, is this 2,500 gold lead in Twisted Fate enough to snowball this lead, or are you going to allow PowerOfEvil to keep getting items and eventually win? But
once
in the meantime,
gun hits on Lost, bailout can't cut it. Team Liquid, take him down.
in the meantime, Lost is going to continue to get killed. And we'll see how much that speeds up the game. Oh man, this is a rough one. It's so interesting too, as they start up this next Rift Herald, which I don't think Immortals is going to contest, that we got to see the coach interview, and I really hope this doesn't dissuade them from doing them in the future. But when he mentions that they think the Kalista Renata is good into the Lucian Nami, that actually hasn't been disproven this game. What has been proven is that Kalista Renata loses to 4-man and 3-man ganks, because they have just been able to send everyone at Lost this game.
Whereas Kenvi's presence is usually very responsive to where Team Liquid have been able to keep that control, and clearly showing where they want to pressure things even ever since that swap happened over top. That's just where all of the action comes through. And because of that, it does mean that second Rift Herald getting secured for Team Liquid side. There's a lot of turrets that have already been chunked down as well. Thank you to Bwipo in the bot for making that happen.
Stride breaker on Olaf as well. I think that's a good purchase. He's able to get close with Ghost. Then once he lands an axe, he'll be able to slow them much more with the active, and they're going for more. He does have flash, but he's rooted a lot.
They got 2 here. Revenge, he's alone. Wants to use the flash, saying, hey, I've got a tier 2. Can I get there? Can I get there? I cannot.
Oh, watch this too. Renata might be in trouble.
Ignar sandwiched between Santorin, who keeps his eyes on PowerOfEvil, cycloning around. Hansama is here for the assistance as well. Kill credit going to Hansama himself. The Berserker is not enough from Ignar to save his life.
7-0. So the snowball seems to be online. Able to get kills frequently, but all right, second turret down, 6,500 gold lead. This is something I want to be able to track, since we have seen so many games go towards scaling. Like, can a team actually have this 5,000 gold lead at 60 minutes and make it a quick win? Can Team Liquid win this game before 30 minutes? I think will be just an interesting inflection point for me when I'm trying to figure out this durability update.
Or does it just continually get pushed on out because of those late drakes and that need and that feeling that I have to wait until those late game objectives are available to be able to close?
Yeah, I mean, Hansama is very accelerated. Gale Force Collector completed already before anyone on the Immortal side has enough base armor to really have any resistance for that little bit of lethality he's been able to build up. So like at this power spike, when Hansama hits level 11, Culling is going to be able to completely annihilate at least one health bar. So I think Team Liquid can do it, but if they can't, then either it's a bad sign for Team Liquid or a bad sign for the patch. One of the two.
So what are Immortals looking at here, though? If they're down right now, 5.4k FPX gold advantage against them, how do they bring it back?
Yeah, they, just to make sure this works, they want to keep this alive for as long as possible, because if they can control that mid turret, it does make it more difficult for Team Liquid to accelerate the game, because if Team Liquid wants to try and push into these second tier turrets down here, it is difficult to do that when their lines are all straight from here. Once they have this down, they can kind of go from a much closer proximity in the jungle and really start taking over.
So how long can they keep up this strength in the mid game, in the mid lane as well? Because for Team Liquid, even though they have 7 kills right now, we have seen some games turned by a single fight if you can last that long. So Immortals potentially looking for that opportunity to do so, but getting collapsed upon because there's a teleport right behind them. They have their own teleport coming through as well. But Bwipo, he's so fast. He's slamming through. He got the vicious strikes. He got everything going for him. He even gets the flash out of him beforehand. Here's a Fate's Call from Lost. Throws out Ignar. No knock-up follow-up though here. Bwipo, he's going to keep slamming away. Even with the Aqua Prison right below Revenge's feet. That's enough to kill them. They've got 3 down on Immortals' side. And Team Liquid, they want more. PowerOfEvil on the retreat. The flash over the wall from Bjergsen into stasis. He goes. Wants to get the handshake. Ignar is going for it. With the wave right off the back end. PowerOfEvil, he falls. Ignar, the only one alive from Immortals' side.
That is how you do it. just a freight train. That's what Bwipo became when he teleported in there, and they still had the second Rift Herald, so not only can they break the mid-outer, they can break the mid-secondary as well. This is a slaughter.
8.5K now in that gold lead. Second dragon falling in Team Liquid's favor.
Watch this one more time. You can see Lost trying to play a little aggressive. This is one thing Kalista tries to do is, unlike other AD carries, tries to make plays in the side lane, but they push up a little bit too far. Bwipo teleports between lanes and they clean up, but we have more action already.
Bwipo still flash, Bwipo still goes for it, Kenvi still goes down. Immortals have the majority of their team here, but that tower is still standing for Team Liquid on the top side.
On the bright side, Immortals now has objective bounties they've turned on. So you never know.
Boom!
You never know. Something could happen. But I'll be a bit of an Immortals apologist for a second. Because even under ideal circumstances, Team Liquid's going to be a big favorite over Immortals. But if you follow PowerOfEvil on social media, you will see he basically got into Los Angeles yesterday.
Yeah,
so they really have not had time to practice as a team, and they're coming up against a Team Liquid team who's now doing Baron. Gonna pause for a second on this story.
They're burning it down, calling coming out. Gnar takes most of it, but the bubble's enough to finish him off. Immortals can't contest. But even with that, as this Baron buff is over onto Team Liquid's side, yes, Immortals, PowerOfEvil just got here yesterday.
Yes.
They had one scrim before they came onto the stage.
Yes, so one scrim with PowerOfEvil. Kenvi's first LCS game hasn't played with PowerOfEvil. And he's going up against a Team Liquid team who has 5 years plus experience on every single player and has made no roster changes from the spring to summer split. And even though they had a disappointing end, getting swept by Evil Geniuses in finals weekend, was the best regular season team in spring. So this was not a fair fight, is what I'm trying to say.
For Team Liquid side, this is what you want to see.
Yes.
11.1K FTX gold advantage, and going against a team with roster changes and a new addition rookie in that jungle position, they better be dominating.
Yeah.
For Immortals, you want to take what you can from it, and if you can push forward and really show that Kenvi is going to get used to the squad and they're going to work together, then that's a great place to be. But it's only 22 minutes into the game, Jatt.
Yeah, it is only 22. Anything can happen.
Anything.
Actually, I see no dragons, no turrets, no barons, no kills. I'm not sure if there were no plates, but we're flirting with perfect game territory here for Team Liquid.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have the official definition of if you need to be plateless with the perfect game, since plates are a recent
Prior
addition
to
the
plates,
game.
it wouldn't matter.
It's like making the achievement harder to get. But
I feel like it doesn't count. I feel like if
a plate
couple
goes
plates,
down?
if before you could get a percentage of a turret and it still count as a perfect game, then why would now the losing team getting a plate mean that it's no longer a perfect game?
I think that's a great question.
So we might be on track for that.
There was literally no official board to give us a ruling, so we get to decide
right here, right now.
For our conversation. It'll change in some other future conversation, but for our conversation, I'm saying if Team Liquid doesn't die or give up a turret, this is going to be my perfect game for them.
Yep, I think it counts. I think it counts. 5 kills onto Bwipo right now. Hansama is getting equally strong, and we know the late game is where he loves to be anyways, and perfect positioning in a lot of the team fights, and on this Lucian zoning off so much with that calling every time they do run into Immortals. And for Immortals right now, you've got over a minute until that next dragon spawns. That's full point for Team Liquid. And you have to decide if you're going to start contesting these or just try and minimize losses. Right now, the Baron buff is going to expire, so this whole last few minutes, you were just trying to hold out as much as possible.
Exactly. I think the Dragon is completely uncontestable. I think Immortals at this point is really just hoping Team Liquid does something foolish and that they can pick up a few kills. But from the Team Liquid side, this is the response you want to see from them after such a devastating end to the spring split. You never know how a team is going to respond to a loss like that, especially a team of so many veterans with such high expectations. Because, like, frankly, looking at the roster, anything that isn't back-to-back LCS titles is a disappointment. So getting the summer split title is still actually expected from them, if I could imagine correctly, and then also trying to make a big run at Worlds. So being able to have this level of clean play this early in the spring split means they took that defeat to heart, and really, with the Korean boot camp, trying to start the season off in a big way, they're doing that right here.
See if they can make the play for it. Santorin into the back line once more. PowerOfEvil into stasis, and as soon as he comes up, that wave helps finish him off. Hansama picking up the kill onto one. Team Liquid pushing on through. Kenvi and Lost. It's just them and Team Liquid looking strong. That means they can target this inhibitor. They've got a little bit of a wave with them, with plenty of teammates to boot. The entire 5-stack still alive and at it. How many Qs can you throw off before you throw in the towel alongside those rocks, Kenvi? Immortals Nexus now targeted. Team Liquid making a statement at the start of their summer split.
A perfect start for Team Liquid in summer. 16 kills, 0 deaths, no turrets, no Rift Heralds, no objectives to the helpless Immortals team in this one. Team Liquid all smiles.
All the boot camps, all